Hey, what's going on, traders? It's Johnny here with TraderX, back with another day trading recap. I do want to thank you guys for your support as always, and I hope you guys are all having a lovely day today. And as usual, I'm going to go ahead and get right into today's recap. So, as you guys can see on the screen, today was a green day in terms of my day trading. I was up $64.71, and that was off me only trading the inverse ETF of the NASDAQ today, right? So, I didn't take part in any TQQQ, it was strictly SQQQ. And in terms of my Tesla position, swing position, you guys can see it was down $40.34 for me, right? So these are all my filled orders. You guys can see the timestamps are here on the left of when I bought in and sold, the quantity I was trading with. The ETF itself is here in the middle, which was only one today, and the price points are here on the right where I bought and sold. And so I'm going to go ahead and get right into today's recap. So in terms of what I think I did well, as far as my day trading went today, was I did a good job of going with direction on the day, right? So as you guys can tell, all of pre-market, the NASDAQ was selling off, right? Heading even right into market open, you guys can see there was an aggressive sell-off, and this thing ended up getting rejected by the EMA, right? And so what I ended up doing was I actually, the first few trades of the day was red on the day. So, and the reason why was as this thing sold off aggressively. And just to remind you guys, so yesterday, if you guys know, right at market open, I tried getting into a play kind of like this, right? Or at least I was hoping for this. So if you guys recall, the Nasdaq was trading more towards middle VWAP, and I thought that at market open we were going to see a nice drop. So as it started to drop, and I added to my position and ended up yesterday actually switching direction, right? And I had to stop out for a $30 loss. And so ultimately, this is the type of move that I was talking to you guys about. So today we saw this thing sell off, right? There was lots of volume to go down with it. So you could have made a pretty decent trade even by averaging up right at market open, right? So as you guys can tell, this thing shot down from highs to lows. This thing was, about almost 0.5%, and it doesn't sound like much, but the inverse ETF would have gone up by triple the amount, right? So 1.5% trade, which is not bad at all, right? And so as this thing sold off, I didn't take part in it because I honestly feel like at market open, it kind of is more of a gamble of whether or not the volume is going to push it down or up, right? So because I got burned yesterday, I wanted to go ahead and lay off trying to predict where the market was going to go right at market open. As it sold off, and picked back up to EMA, I decided to buy in and I averaged up. And then I was waiting for it to break below this support, but it never did actually, and it reversed, right? So I had to cut losses, and that put me down on the day. As this thing broke back up, it actually tried a few times breaking below EMA, as you guys can see. But as it broke back above the EMA, I was, uneasy on the direction, so I decided to cut losses there. And so I wasn't doing too hot, and I did make some money on this fall, but I don't believe I was able to average up. And then once more, I was able to make some money on, this drop here below EMA. And I knew it would be choppy right around this area. Well, I didn't know, but, after pretty much getting burned a few times on these trades, what I thought to myself was, okay, direction obviously isn't the most clear, right? It's breaking above EMA, below it, above, below it. It's not really choosing a direction. So I decided to not take a trade until I felt direction was more clear, right? And that's something like I talked about. It's very good to try to trade when there's movement and try to not trade when it's very choppy, right? Something like this, very hard to predict direction or even make money. So once I got burned on, a few of these SQs plays, I decided to, hold off and wait for something to set up. So as this thing picked back up, I may have tried one SQ trade here and lost money, but ultimately as this thing pushed back up and got rejected again, I decided to get back in. And as this thing sold off, I averaged up and cut my trade, right? And then I did it once more, right? So right around this area, this thing fell. I made my money. I waited for this thing to reverse. I didn't know it was gonna, right? But once this thing reversed and picked back up to middle VWAP, as you guys can tell, right, all of pre-market, this thing has been trading between the middle and bottom VWAP, right? So anytime it approaches the middle VWAP, it tends to fall and not hold very well, right? It'll tend to it'll tend to break above the EMA, peak back out before it continues to sell off, right? And so as this thing approached the middle VWAP, there was a chance, right, given off the patterns that we are basing it off of, that it could continue to sell off. And so given that chance, I decided to wait for direction to become clear, right? So I didn't just automatically send it as it, touched these levels hoping it was gonna just fall, right? For all we know, it could have broken up the above the middle VWAP and started a run on the day and changed direction. But what I decided to do and what I was proud of myself was waited till this thing actually started to sell off, right? So I didn't just buy it up here hoping it would fall. I waited for this thing to break below EMA. And then as it would pick back up, it would struggle, right? Above the EMA. It would fall. So I was getting a feel of the direction. It would pick back up, fall, right? Pick back up. And then on one of these plays, I decided, if this thing's continuing to get rejected when it breaks above the EMA and it was selling off all day, right? There's a good chance it could continue to sell off. Doesn't mean it has to, but there was a chance it could. And that's why I decided to get into SQQQ. And that's ultimately why I decided to focus strictly on the inverse ETF, right? SQQQ and not trade TQQQ. Because direction was in my favor trading SQs, it was that much easier to trade today, right? If I was trying to predict when this thing was going to bounce, it could have been a lot harder too. Today, honestly, it was bouncing right around these levels, right? So it's easier in hindsight to tell when this thing could have reversed. But as you guys can tell, it did break above this line a few times. So, it would have definitely made me skeptical and uneasy in terms of the direction. So that's why I focused strictly on the inverse ETF SQQQ. And that is ultimately how I was able to make those $64, right? In terms of my Tesla swing position, so what I wanted to show you guys was, given the Nasdaq was red on the day today, right? You guys will, be able to see that Tesla and a lot of the other top tech stocks followed suit, and that's typical to see. Whenever the Nasdaq pushes up, we see lots of these tech related companies push up, right? They also have a surge. And because they're heavily influenced by the Nasdaq. So, given the Nasdaq pulled back today, we did see Tesla down 2.44%, right? So, it was trading at highs on the day at one point, right at market open at 877, all the way down to lows of 838 on the day. And so, if you guys recall, me and my brother did initially buy in 2 shares at the average price of 660, and once it broke above $840, we decided to buy in with 4 more shares. We sold out of the shares at 890, right? And the reason for that was it gapped up a lot within 2 days, and we were happy with the profit, and it was looking more overbought. So although from where we sold our 4 shares that we averaged up with at 890, right? Although it did push up to highs of 940 and we did miss that little margin there, which would have been nice, we ultimately cut it there and we felt like it was smart to do so because of how overbought the market was, right? So as you guys can tell, Tesla typically, as it's beginning to uptrend, it'll push up, correct itself a bit, push up, correct itself, push up, correct itself, push up. And so I was expecting some form of pullback, right? That's why I decided to cut my shares up here. Although it sucked that it continued to run, I was still in with 2 shares. And so it wasn't the end of the world, right? This thing ended up selling off as predicted. And it would have been horrible, right, if I was still in with those 4 shares that I averaged up with and I just got greedy because I thought this thing was going to continue to run and this thing ended up pulling back this hard, right? I would have really been, kicking myself in the butt because of the fact that it just made more sense to lock in the profits up there. Although it could have continued to run, right? I wasn't really expecting it to run much more, and that's ultimately what happened. We've been having these huge pullbacks, so that's why I'm very grateful that I was able to liquidate some shares up here. And as the prices are getting cheaper, I can load back up on them, right? And I don't just plan on loading up right away. In terms of when I decide to load back up on Tesla, I'm waiting for the Nasdaq as it's pulling back. I'm expecting it to hit, closer to 12.7, 12.800 again. And the reason for that is on the bigger time frame, you guys will notice the Nasdaq has been very, very bullish, right? So it doesn't really surprise me that we are having this form of a correction, right? These past year or so or 6 months, and given this big correction, we did see the Nasdaq eventually break above the EMA on the longer time frame, and we are seeing it, start to form a bit of a rejection. And I'm gonna wait for this thing to try bouncing on the EMA. So as you guys can tell, as this thing corrects itself and then picks back above the EMA, it does a good job of holding above the EMA, right? As it makes these higher highs and higher lows. So as this thing is pulling back, I'm really excited for it, honestly, to pull back because that means it's going to test the EMA on the longer time frame. And if this thing continues, to make higher highs and higher lows, and we're seeing positive news come out regarding the economy and its state, it can really start to drive the price of Tesla and it's gonna encourage me to want to add more shares, right, and start to average up. I want to add something that's making me money, right, and sell out at points where I feel like there can be a big pullback, right? So that's ultimately everything I wanted to talk about in terms of my trading today and my plan with Tesla. I hope you guys were able to take something out of it and learn something new. If you guys are new to the channel, we really, really do appreciate you guys dropping a like and subscribing. It really, really does help us out, and we really appreciate it. Other than that, if you guys have any questions at all, you want me to break down any stock or, make a video on any topic, just go ahead and drop a comment and I will go ahead and get to that. But that's everything I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys all have a lovely day today, and I will be posting my trading recap for tomorrow. So I will see you guys then. Take care.